Welcome, brave souls, to the chilling depths of horror in detail. Today, we're going to share taxi driver horror stories. First story. I was a taxi driver for 20 years, and there's one passenger I will never forget. My name is Philip, but my friends call me Phil or Master P as I was known back then. Yeah, I know it's the name of a famous rapper, but I had another friend who went by Mr. T. It was kind of our stick. But this story isn't about corny nicknames. It's about a strange girl that I picked up 20 years ago and why I can't ever forget about her. I was 28 years old and have been driving taxis for 7 years. It was supposed to be a part-time gig until I graduated college. Well, graduation came and went, and I couldn't find another job, so I decided to stick with it. Over the course of those 7 years, I met my fair share of weirdos, drunks, prostitutes, fellow late-night workers, and an assortment of other creatures who call themselves human. This particular night, I had picked up a group of 4 young adults. It was the girl in question along with 3 guys. They looked pretty normal, not drunk or high, which was a rarity for their age group. The guys were very talkative, and I got to know a couple of things about them. The ringleader was Fred, a tall Asian rocker. Next was Jim, a rotund black goofball, and then Carl, a white bread nerd. Fred explained that his car had broken down earlier that day, forcing him and his companions to walk. Jim grew tired of that and decided they should hail a cab. Carl was hesitant because he thought I or some other psycho taxi driver might try to kill them. I joked that I only killed during the daylight hours and preferably young hot women. Fred and Jim laughed, but Carl wasn't amused. We continued to shoot the shit as I drove them to their destination. I noticed the girl hadn't spoken this whole time, so I tried shifting the conversation towards her. Playing off the killer remark, I made some lame comment about how she was the only one smart enough not to spill her secrets to me, so I would spare her life. She didn't respond, but Fred said she was shy. I inquired more about her. He told me her name was June and that she and Carl attended the local university. He and Jim had dropped out last year after they realized they didn't want to be a doctor and an accountant, respectively. The talking died down until I saw June whisper to Fred through the rearview mirror. Fred nodded his head, then told me there was a change of plans. Instead of me taking them all to his house, they wanted to be dropped off at their own places. He apologized for making me go out of the way and said he would pay full fare for everyone. Carl said his house was just back the other way, so I busted a small U-turn and dropped him off first. He got out in front of a 2-story house in a nice suburban neighborhood. I figured it belonged to his parents and decided to honk the horn to let them know their son was home. Carl shot me a dirty look and ran into the house as soon as he saw the living room light turn on. Jim laughed, but he was next. However, his neighborhood looked a bit rough, so I decided to cruise through and not draw attention. After that, it was down to June and Fred, and I thought the gentlemanly thing to do would be to drop her off first. But Fred insisted his stop was closer and that June enjoyed long car rides. He handed me $200 as he got out. The meter read $63, but he said it was to cover June's ride as well as a tip. Seeing how he lived in a newly built high-rise, I assumed he could spare it and didn't argue. I asked June where she lived, and she didn't answer. Remembering that she was shy, I turned on the radio, hoping it would make her more comfortable. Some crappy, albeit popular song came on, and I asked her if she liked it. Again, no answer. I gave a few minutes, thinking maybe she'd open up on her own. Eventually, she said something, but I couldn't make it out. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" I said. She said it again, but I still didn't catch it. I turned off the radio. "Could you repeat that one more time?" "Do you see yourself on the TV?" she asked. It was an odd question made even stranger by her childlike voice. Assuming she meant, do I imagine myself as famous? I replied that I was in band in high school and dreamed of making it big, but I don't care about stuff like that anymore. She shook her head and said again, "Do you see yourself on the TV?" This time I said my best buddy had been an extra in a movie. It was the closest thing to seeing myself on it. She frowned and started looking out the window. I examined her through the mirror. She was pretty, although I couldn't tell what her ethnicity was. Being the logical man that I am, I declared her to be all 3 of the races the guys were. She had long black hair styled in bunches and wore an old-fashioned floral dress. She caught my stare. "It's getting late," she said. The clock read 11:15, and I was inclined to agree. "Where's your stop?" I asked. "Will you turn on your TV?" she said. I didn't understand her obsession with TV, but I promised her I would. "Then you can stop right here." I pulled up in front of an old industrial building. I had a strong feeling she did not live there, but I was tired and had spent enough time with this girl already. I wished her good night, and she gave me a wave before disappearing into the shadow of the building. When I got home, I threw myself on the couch and turned on the TV. I know it was stupid, but I just had to see what she was talking about. I must have flipped through every channel hoping to find a doppelganger, to no avail. I eventually settled on a late-night movie channel and half-heartedly watched it until I fell asleep. As soon as I did, I heard a familiar voice say, "Hello?" I perked up and looked straight at the TV. Staring back at me was June. "Hello, Philip," she said in a sweet voice. "I'm glad you turned on the TV." I sat there in shock. Was I dreaming, or was she really on the TV? "Would you like to see yourself?" she asked. I was scared, but I said yes. The next thing I know, I'm seeing myself lying in bed. My alarm rings, and I knock it off my nightstand. Funny, I thought. I did the same thing that morning. I roll out of bed and head for the bathroom. I get dressed, and the outfit I have on is the same one I'm wearing. I eat the same breakfast, toast, eggs, and bacon. I made a phone call to my mom that morning, then I picked up my first passenger of the day. You might have guessed it was the same guy from this morning. I watched my whole day play out all the way up until I picked up June and her friends. "You can watch any episode," she said before vanishing. Unable to comprehend what just happened, I shut my eyes tight and tried to sleep. The following day, everything went as usual. I didn't see June or the guys again. Part of me was relieved while the other half was disappointed. I wanted to tell her I saw myself on TV. Her reaction would tell me if I had dreamt it or if it was some kind of elaborate high-tech joke. That night, I laid in my bed and watched some good old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Suddenly, the broadcast was cut off, and I saw June appear on screen. This time I knew I wasn't dreaming. I had called off early and took a nap, waking up about an hour ago. "Hello, Philip," she said in the same sugary voice. "Did you enjoy last night's episode?" I didn't know what to say. Knowing my life was a TV show for her unnerved me, but also made me angry. My privacy was being invaded by a girl whom I didn't know existed until yesterday, and there was seemingly nothing I could do about it. "I don't want to watch myself," I said. "You don't have to watch today's episode," she replied. Just hearing her say that made me sick. "Remember, you can watch any episode," she said. "Any episode?" I reiterated. She nodded. "Show me the day I was born." I know it was ballsy, but I still had a hard time believing it was real. Perhaps someone snuck into my house and placed a hidden camera and attached one to me somehow. If she couldn't show me my own birth, then I would be right. If she could, I was Major F. Not only did she show me my birth, but the full 9 months leading up to it. I learned that I was actually my parents' 4th child. The other ones were either miscarried or stillborn. But I was born from another man's sperm without my dad's consent. He begged my mom to abort, but she wouldn't. That's when his drinking problem began and what would later cause them to divorce. The episode went off, and I was left feeling hollow. These were family secrets never meant to come out. The siblings that could have been. The humiliation of my father. The first sign of their marriage breaking down. I cried for hours. My nights were spent watching episodes of my life. I saw myself take my first steps, go to my first day of school, lose my virginity, and many other milestones. I watched all the mistakes I made and all the embarrassing moments I had. Sometimes I laughed, sometimes I cried. It stopped scaring me and became comforting. One evening I got a call to pick up a couple of people from a local pizza joint. I was surprised to see that it was June, Fred, Jim, and Carl. I had become accustomed to seeing June on the TV to the point it felt unreal to see her in person. I greeted them and Jim asked how I had been. I told him I was on a self-discovery journey. I saw a quick smirk appear on June's face, but the car erupted with laughter when Jim made a crack about my journey really being about masturbation. I dropped Carl off at his parents' house again and Jim at work. June accompanied Fred to his apartment. He lingered behind while she got out. Something wrong? I asked. He shifted from side to side. Do you watch TV? He asked. Doesn't everybody? I said with a chuckle. Do you see yourself on the TV? I swallowed hard. I couldn't bring myself to answer the question. You can see other people too, he said, looking me in the eye. I nodded, and he got out of the car. I skipped watching TV that night, but his words stuck with me. So the next night, I tried it out. I asked June if I could see the day my parents got married. She obliged. From there, I asked about other family members, friends, former flames, and even random people on the street. It was exciting, but I also felt disgusted with myself for prying into these people's lives. June assured me they would never know, but I couldn't help but feel guilty. Where do you see yourself in the future? June asked me one night. Never really thought about it. I replied, I don't want to drive taxis forever. Do you want me to show you the future? It never occurred to me until then that I could take a look at the future. She did say any episode, but I assumed it was only the episodes we have already lived. I do, I said. But can I see your future too? My future, she said, puzzled. Yes, I want to see your future in my future, I said. Perhaps we'll still know each other. Without saying anything, she showed me my future. I will quit my taxi job and go into business with my friend. The business will bloom, and I'll meet a wonderful woman named Sandra. We'll get married and have 2 kids and live an idyllic life in the suburbs. My father will die, but not before making amends with me and Mom. Mom will get cancer but pull through and become an excellent grandmother to my kids. It made me emotional knowing there was such an amazing life awaiting me. As for June, her future was less clear. Literally, there was nothing but static. I was about to turn off the TV when a black and white soap opera came on. June starred as the mistreated middle daughter of a wealthy family who was having an affair with a doctor. Fred, her father's personal accountant, was Jim, and her dogged nice guy best friend was Carl. Some new neighbors had moved in, and her mother dragged her over to meet them. Those new neighbors? My future family. It's been 20 years since then, and everything she showed me has happened. My wife is cooking downstairs, and my children are playing outside. As I type this up, my TV flicks off and on twice. It's one of those cheap off-brand smart TVs, so I figure it's on a fritz. But then I look out my window and see my children talking to a young woman wearing an old-fashioned floral dress. Second story, the taxi driver and the pregnant passenger. This is an experience as told by my aunt's friend who's a taxi driver in Hong Kong. I'm only retelling the story as I found it creepy, yet fascinating. We're going to call this taxi driver George for the sake of clarity. As a taxi driver, George is constantly roaming around the city, looking for his next customer. He tends to work late-night shifts as he finds it much easier to get people to and from through the streets of Hong Kong without getting stuck in gridlock. One night, he found a pregnant lady waving him down for a ride during his usual search. When he picked her up, she told him that she really needed to head to the hospital as she thinks she's about to give birth. With a sense of urgency, he started driving to the closest hospital. During the ride, nothing out of the ordinary happened. He was so focused on the final destination, he didn't pay attention to anything else. He got to the hospital and dropped the lady off and went on to find his next passenger. He drove back to his usual neighborhood, passing by the same area where he picked up the pregnant lady. To his surprise, she was standing there again. The same lady in the same clothes standing in the same spot where he had picked her up earlier. Scared out of his mind, he hightailed out of that area, slightly confused. He just couldn't make sense of it all. When my aunt asked him whether the lady ever paid the taxi fare, he couldn't remember at all. He only remembered that he for sure picked this lady up and dropped her off at a hospital. Third story, taxi to hell. If it had been just me, I would have been willing to believe that the whole ride was just some sort of nightmarish hallucination. But it wasn't just me. Allison and Mitra stepped into the taxi with me, and they both remember the exact same thing. It was last Saturday. We were at the birthday party of one of Allison's high school friends. Mitra, Allison's little sister, tagged along just because she happened to be in town. I think she mostly came along because she knew some of the guys that would be around. The party went into the early morning hours. A few minutes after 2 a.m., I called the taxi. The agent told us a car would arrive within less than 10 minutes. Standing at the side of the road, the first raindrops hit our heads. Allison fled under my coat with a squeaking noise, and Mitra, an honest third wheel, looked on with a confusion of disgust, jealousy, and amusement. We saw the taxi moving around the corner. It seemed unusually slow, but else the car looked all right. We flagged the car down, squeezed on the back seat, and told the driver the address to our apartment. Without a word, he began driving. The first minutes seemed normal. There was a certain tension in the air, something that kept us from talking among each other. I figured the driver was just tired and uninterested in idle and repetitive conversation. Still, his silence and his stiff focus on driving made my hands turn cold. He kept driving slowly, but worse was that his tiredness seemed to impact his reaction time. Every curve was taken just a moment too late. Each time his hands lingered on the steering wheel for a moment longer than they should have. The car came to a halt at a red light. His brake was a bit too late and too harsh. At least we didn't drive into the crossing. I realized that I had no idea where we were. Sitting right behind the driver and with Allison to my right, knocked on the thin plastic wall that separated him from us. "Hey," I said, "are you okay?" No reaction. "Sir, are you okay?" "Maybe deaf," whispered Allison. She giggled. Mitra just shrugged. I knocked harder, and finally he moved. It was a jerking motion, as if my knock had startled him. Still, he did not turn around. "Hey," I said, "are you sure you can drive?" His reaction was nearly inaudible. A faint groaning noise that I took as a yes. Allison giggled. Mitra gestured towards the door. "Sir," I said, "I think we're good here. We'll stay here. Thank you." "How much is it?" The red light turned orange. The motor howled loudly, and the car started moving. "Hey, we want to get out." It was as if he didn't hear me. The car kept accelerating. Within a few seconds, we were at least going twice the speed limit. Allison, Mitra, and I were screaming. My fists were pounding against the plastic. He ignored us. The car didn't slow down even once. Despite all the curves seemingly taken far too late, despite the narrow roads and the traffic, the car didn't slow down even once. I tried to push my hand through the payment hole. The plastic cut into my arm, and I kept pushing forward, but my arm got stuck in a painful position. "Stop!" I screamed. "Why don't you stop?" Within less than 5 minutes, we were out of town. I hadn't realized that we were so near to the outskirts already. It was as if he had planned it all along, to bring us outside town, probably to rob or at least blackmail us. Mitra was the one creative enough to pull her phone out. She called the emergency number, but somehow her phone didn't get connection. With my phone, we had more luck. The connection was there. I heard the dial tone. Then there was just white noise. I screamed our plight into the phone, hoping that someone would hear us. All the while the car, if anything, kept going faster and faster. Houses I didn't know flew past. Finally, they gave way to a sparse forest. Still at high speed, we turned off the street onto a dirt pathway without a sign. The tires were screeching. We were thrown from one side to the other on the back seat. At one point, the car even felt as if it would topple over at any moment. The driver stayed perfectly calm. We couldn't see his face, but he seemed perfectly composed. The dirt pathway went on and on. The speed decreased slightly. We passed parked cars, some with their doors open. Some had smashed windows. The trees to both sides of the pathway stood closer and closer. Barely any light seemed to pass between them. Then the clearing opened up. A wide clearing with cars parked at several spots. Cars and people standing between them. People that began to run towards us. The taxi brushed against another parked taxi. The brakes screeched. The car slid sidewards, turned nearly 180 degrees, and then came to a sudden halt. The people ran towards us. Allison was the one that pressed the door locks down. We were screaming and staring at the running figures. I screamed, "Drive." Only then I looked at him again, saw that the driver had turned around. saw that there was no face except for a horizontal red cleft where his eyes should have been. The cleft seemed to be opening further. A figure slammed against Mitra's door. She screamed. Allison screamed. I screamed. The driver began hammering against the plastic that separated us and him. A figure appeared at my window. He, if I can call it that, pulled the door handle and luckily failed. Despite his lack of a face, he seemed angry. His whole body seemed to teem with rage. Another figure jumped on the roof. The driver's fists pounded harder and harder. The cleft of the figure outside my window widened. Black Stump showed. With his hand still on the door handle, he leaned backwards. His arms were shaking. With a loud metallic sound, he flew backwards into the ground. The door handle was still in his hands, but not anymore attached to the car. The plastic in front of me cracked. The driver kept punching against it. I saw black pieces falling off his equally black hands. There were at least 20 of them, maybe 30, or seemed to be coming out from between the trees. A figure jumped against the front window. Another body checked the passenger door next to Mitra. A figure at the back of the car pressed her cleft onto the back window while her hands pounded against the glass. A piece of plastic flew against my face. The car jerked slightly forward. Allison screamed louder. His completely black hand had pushed through the plastic and was grabbing for Allison's face. It was just a reflex. With all these things around, all I wanted was to get him off Allison. I grabbed the cold black arm and twisted it. A loud crack. The driver's second hand slammed against the plastic. A figure to my left started punching my window with the broken door handle. I pushed the arm forward, back towards the driver. His red cleft shivered, then was pressed together. His hand twitched and bent to try and grab my hand. Some hard object hit the front window. I pushed his arm harder. Black pieces got stuck on the broken plastic, but his arm moved. It moved backwards and pushed his body away from us. The motor roared. Within just a moment, the car started moving. The driver seemed more furious, his second hand hitting ever harder against the plastic. The glass to my left was broken. A few fingers were pushed through the hole. They were grabbing towards me. Something jumped on the back of the car. The taxi slowly accelerated. It was as if his leg was stuck on the gas, and my pushing pushed his foot down slightly. More figures rammed against the sides of the car. The hole in the window to my left widened. Nearly the whole hand came through. I pushed harder against the arm. With a ripping sound, his arm moved further back to his side of the plastic. His hand grabbed mine, and I grabbed his. His cleft stretched larger and widened again. His second hand tried to push through the hole. The car sped up. Another figure jumped on the hood and swung backwards to hit the front window with a stone. Just when his arm swung forward, he slipped and only scratched the glass. The driver made a huffing noise. His hand clawed into mine. I felt his nails digging deep in my flesh, but I held his arm in place. The car accelerated further, nearly towards the pathway where we had come from. Some of the figures to our side stumbled, the others fell behind. There was nothing I could have done to stop the crash. The car went onto the path. The figure on the hood was grasping to all sides to stay on the car. The driver's second hand cracked another part of the plastic. Mitra screamed, and Allison ducked down. The taxi hit the tree with considerable speed. The figure on the hood of the car hissed loudly. A black goo splashed over the front window. My head was thrown against the plastic. "Out!" screamed Mitra. She pushed the door open, and Allison was right behind her. The pain was horrible. I was disoriented. I didn't remember why I needed to hurry. My vision was partially gone. "Get out!" shouted a female voice. Somehow I managed to open the door. Someone pulled me outside. Come on, said a voice. They pulled me forward. We passed another car. Somehow my feet began to move. I heard something running towards us. "This one," shouted a female voice. I saw Allison open the door to another car. The car's windows were all smashed. "We have to run," I said. Mitra pushed me on the back seat and climbed in after me. Allison was in the front. The footsteps behind us grew louder. The motor stalled. Allison cursed. It stalled a second time. Something moved in the forest to our right. I heard the motor jump on. Mitra screamed, "Hurry!" The car hit something, then rolled over something. I turned towards the back window. Two figures were running after the car. I saw the driver climbing out of the taxi. His cleft was wide open. The last thing I remember is a high-pitched noise. I woke up to the sound of sirens. I was lying, and something held me down. There was a man's back right above my head, and the ground was swinging. Mitra came with me to the hospital. Allison was held at the station. The car in which we escaped, and its driver, had been missing for several months. Allison said the police didn't take her report very seriously. Still, they sent 2 cars to look for the forest. Somehow the description Allison gave was not enough. Allison later came to the hospital. They said that we would be investigated for stealing a car and that the police would ask me questions about my head wound. The police never questioned me. They called Allison and Mitra for another round of questioning while I was still at the hospital. I was released 2 days ago. That same day, there was a small article on the front page of our local newspaper. Police officers still missing. The story in that article is very different. 2 officers examining a drug ring disappeared in one of the large local forests. Neither they nor their car was found. As said, I would be more than willing to believe this was all just some hallucination. But Allison and Mitra remember the exact same thing. 4th story. My story with an interesting taxi driver in Singapore. Us Singaporeans have 2 things that make us distinct. Our one-of-a-kind, notorious, sometimes hated accent, which we so proudly call Singlish, and our also interesting taxi drivers. My friend and I live near the same area, and one of our friends suggested having a round of shots at a pub downtown. We flagged a taxi, where I rushed in the front seat, and my friend, accepting he'll have to sit in the back, started pacing himself towards sitting at the back, in the middle of the taxi driver and myself, where his legs spread like a 20-year-old Virgin Mary after having a few shots. "Clark Quay Avenue," I said. "Seatbelt," he replied, and we hit the road. "How old?" he said as he drove about 5 minutes from where we first left. "What?" I looked at him confused on knowing exactly what he meant. My buddy and I looked like a bunch of dropouts, and myself, after a regretful last-minute shave, I looked more of a child than the old taxi driver's photo of what seemed to be his son in a carriage, next to his air conditioning dispenser. Before I could reply, he burst out laughing. "What, look so scared, huh?" I play joke only, he said, with a heavy, Malaysian-influenced Singlish dialect. I still told him I was 19 and my buddy was 20, just so he wouldn't get the wrong picture of us. He clearly didn't, or if he did, he was very comfortable with underage drinking. My 16th year went to pub. So many drinks, man. Best night of my life, I tell you. He said. He was a very comforting person, making us feel like he was another one of our members heading for another drink. My buddy, playing around and wanting to break the ice some more, asked, "How can you drive?" "Your hair in the way," later kina, which means occur or happen in Malay, accident. I turned around, lightly punching my friend at the top of his head as he laughed, joined with the taxi driver whom my buddy probably half offended, as this taxi driver was bald. I apologized for my friend's stupidity to the taxi driver, to which he said, "Your friend was just like me when I was young." His first, non-Singlish sentence. Like most taxi drivers in Singapore, he then began to rant about how childhood is such a great thing, and eventually, like most taxi drivers in Singapore, began talking about his life, which, unlike every taxi driver in Singapore, was very, very different. He told us how he didn't have a religion, and after my friend asked why, he replied his father was a leader of a satanic cult. My friend and I are both people who neither deny nor accept that there's a God, so we weren't really bothered by anything, though it was quite creepy. I assume it was satanic, as he carefully said his father was against God and not God's existence. God is there, but he does not know how to control us. To which he then said, "So, my father like someone that prayed for demon. Entity like that. Sometimes, he tell us we have to bring friend over. Friend come over, never come out again. You know? You usually take one that like to drink. Give him drink, then again kin a man. Gone." I asked, "No jail?" He said, "You think I never go police?" I was drinker law. They call me crazy. Lucky never kin a fine for drinking. I didn't know how to reply. After understanding this man's father is a crazy demon-worshipping maniac that sacrifices kids. My friend did, though, completely unconvinced about the whole idea, saying, "Wah, you father crazy, yes. Kill kids, ah." The taxi driver didn't reply until a red light, which was a whole awkward minute away. Never kill one. Turn them into people like me. "So who are you?" My friend said, creeped out now as he was bringing out his slight Australian accent, as though a defense mechanism. "Worker. Drive taxi." I then said, "No, like, what does your father turn the kids into?" Angrily, he slowly recited, "Workers. I drive taxi, others do different." My friend and I looked at each other. Our stop was nearby, but another red light saved us so we could be able to ask him more questions. "What did your father do to you?" I said immediately. Not about what father does to me. About what we do for him. We do everything. Anything he wants. Become Fwat BA, become cell boys, make Royal Generation line, or become taxi drivers like me. Like rotation, like that. My buddy immediately asked him what Fwat BA was, which he replied, "Language law." Slut like that. I then asked, "So what do taxi drivers do?" "Find more boys." We were at our stop. I was wondering the entire time, why didn't he take us into his father, why he told us this story, why he would say something about it, or even anything. I nervously said as I handed him the money, "So, why didn't you take us in then?" "You said you were 19. He looked me in the eye, then burst laughing. I play joke only, and he immediately took the money. I closed the door, awkwardly smiling, and he was off. My buddy and I stood there, looking at each other as we saw the taxi drive past us. We saw in the distance the same taxi signaling the vehicle stopped. He picked up 2 kids. Fifth story. The cab driver. Lucknow, India, December 16th, 2011. 5 p.m., a cold evening. I had to attend a dinner party around 50 kilometers away from the hotel I was staying in. I called a cab company and booked a pickup at 7 p.m. About 20 minutes later, I got a text message on my mobile phone with the driver name, Abdul Hassan, and the car registration number. I took a shower and got dressed up. Exactly at 7 p.m., I got a call from the driver. Punctual, I thought. I went downstairs and greeted Abdul Hassan, a man in his late 50s. He was wearing a traditional Indian dress, white kurta, and pajama. He was sporting a gray beard. Abdul told me that the drive would take a little longer than usual, maybe around an hour and a half, because of the foggy weather. That didn't bother me, because I had to reach the party only by 9 p.m. I checked Abdul's ID and the car number, and jumped into the front seat. 10 minutes into the journey, I noticed that Abdul had not switched on the meter. "Mate, you have not switched on the meter yet. How are you going to charge me?" I asked. "Never mind, sir. This trip is free for you." Abdul responded with a smile. "What?" I said with a puzzled look. "Sir, today is my last day in job. I am retiring tomorrow and will go on pilgrimage after that. This is my last assignment, and you're my last passenger. I cannot take money from you." Abdul clarified. "No, Abdul. I can't accept that. You give me service and I pay for that. We have met only 10 minutes back. I can't take any favors from you for no reason." I shot back. "Sir, I always thought that I would do my last assignment for free. 200 rupees won't really make a difference to either of us, will it? Please allow this poor Indian man to feel good on his last day at work," Abdul said. I could not argue any further. I just smiled and thought that simple good things still have not vanished from this world entirely, and sometimes it is these poor people who remind us of these good things. I started chatting with Abdul. He had been driving for 35 years. "Never once have I missed a pickup, sir. Never once have I not been on time," Abdul claimed proudly. I could not disbelieve him. He had already won my heart. But then I noticed his watch, an old, worn-out watch which was not working and still showing 6:45 p.m. I found it funny that a man who was wearing a dead watch was claiming to be so punctual. "Your watch is dead, Abdul." I said a bit sarcastically. Oh, my father gave this watch to me. It doesn't work, but it's my lucky charm. So I wear it all the time. But I don't really need a watch to be on time, Abdul said with a smile. We both laughed, and indeed Abdul was on time, at least in my case, despite the dead watch. We continued to talk about various other things, his family, my family, about the city, and many more. 90 minutes spent with a good man. And we reached my destination, sharp at 8:30 p.m. I got down from the car and I said to Abdul, "You're a good man, Abdul. I know you won't take money from me, but just as a memory of this drive, I insist you take this watch of mine. Don't say no." I took my watch off and gave it to Abdul. Abdul resisted initially, but accepted my little gift finally. I thanked Abdul, and we said goodbye to each other. Abdul left, and I walked into the dinner party. About 5 minutes later, my phone rang. I picked it up. "Sir, I am calling from the cab company. Sir, we are so sorry that your pickup hasn't happened yet. We will arrange for another cab immediately," a lady voice said from the other side. "What do you mean? I was picked up by your driver sharp on time, and in fact I have reached my destination now," I replied. "Who picked you up, sir?" the lady asked after a pause. "Abdul Hassan, the driver who was supposed to pick me up. I had checked his ID and the car registration number before boarding," I said. "Sir, you must be confused. Somebody else may have picked you up. Abdul Hassan died in a road accident at around 6:45 p.m. today, 15 minutes before your pickup time. He was on the way to pick you up when he met with the accident. We have been informed about his death just now," the lady said. I froze. I understood why Abdul didn't take money from me. Because he didn't need any. Why his watch was dead. Because his time stopped at 6:45. Yet, he did his duty one last time. And he was on time, as he had claimed, even on his last assignment. I started sweating even in the December cold. I looked at my wrist. My watch was still there. Abdul didn't need my watch either. Sixth story. Why I avoided going through that road. I'm a taxi driver. The things I've experienced at night on the road would probably send chills down anyone's spines. Here's my story. I'm a cab driver here in the Philippines, particularly here in Quezon City. When I started out, I've heard stories about the infamous stretch of road that my peers, some very seasoned drivers, feared to even enter, Bullet Drive. Being the naive and feisty person that I was, I didn't think much of it. A road is a road, as I would say, until my very first drive through the infamous road. It was a Sunday, probably at around 11 in the evening. You'd be surprised to know that even at the late hours of the night, traffic is still prevalent in the city. I had this one passenger who was in a rush, asking me to take any type of shortcuts I could to get to where they wanted to go. So I did. And it just so happened that one of these said shortcuts was Bullet Drive. At the time, I really didn't know where I was going, focusing on getting my passenger to where they wanted to go. But as soon as we entered the aforementioned road, the atmosphere within my cab changed dramatically. A sudden frigid cold spread through my cab, and a sensation of being watched started tingling through my thoughts. I looked back at my passenger, and I could see that they too were experiencing this bone-chilling feeling. I tried to quickly regain my composure and focus on the destination, but then from the corner of my eye, I see something. A person. It wasn't really just any person. From what I could have glimpsed, it seemed like a woman. Her back was crooked back in almost an exaggerated slouch. Her hair looked wet and gangly, and her skin was as pale as a corpse. Through the mangling of her hair, I thought I saw her eyes, bloodshot and wide open. As soon as I caught a glimpse, I knew that I had to get out of this road as fast as possible, so I floored it. As we pulled out of the drive, I sat quietly, still trying to process what had just happened. After experiencing that, the frigid cold turned into a cold sweat. I really couldn't do anything but drive, trying to get my mind off from what I just experienced. Out of nowhere, my passenger just said, "Dee, did you see what I just saw?" I froze. I looked at them through my mirror, and they just gave me a look of terror. I thought I was the only one who saw the crooked woman. As we reached the passenger's destination, I sat there in silence. The passenger was obviously shook up as well. They shakily reached into their wallet and handed me some cash. The passenger slowly left the car and closed the door in a gentle thud. As I pulled away, I saw how much the experience shook up the passenger. As soon as my cab passed them, they booked it into the building nearby, very apparently terrified. After that experience, I avoided Bolete Drive as much as possible. But that experience isn't the most terrifying experience I've had with the said road. My second trip there would traumatize me for the rest of my life. As aforementioned, I did try to avoid Bolete Drive as much as I could. But this one occasion, my passenger, an amateur journalist, insisted we took the road that night. So as hesitant as I was, I complied. They pay me good money after all. So, as we entered the drive, I tried to speed through the road to get it over quick, but my passenger wanted me to take a slower pace. Bad idea. Just like the previous encounter, the entire cab was engulfed by a frigid coldness. I could hear my passenger breathing heavily, and through my mirror, I could see how tense and uneasy they were, looking around and fumbling with their stuff. I tightly gripped my steering wheel, trying to keep my composure. Then there she was, the crooked woman. It was so much harder to not look knowing we were going just about 15 kilometers per hour. As we slowly passed her, her appearance became more visceral. Now I could see lashes on her skin, tears on her white, muddy dress. I don't know if it was just me or her gaze was following us. Then as we pulled away from her, my passenger said something that just terrified me. Hey, is she following us? That's when I looked at my rear view mirror, and I saw the woman running after our vehicle, her shrill screams echoing through my ears. I sped up hoping that we will outrun whatever that is. Then out of nowhere, I felt a thud, and the car shook along with it. I again looked at my rear view mirror. There she was, at the trunk of my car, hanging from the rear roof, looking at us through the back window. She then proceeded to hit the glass of my rear window, gradually hitting it stronger and stronger. She screamed at us, opening her cracked lips and showing her elongated tongue, her growls getting louder and louder as we sped. Her bloodshot eyes stared intently at me, her mangled hair flowing in the wind as I floored it. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it could break through my damn chest. I looked at my dash, 100 kilometers per hour. I'm literally speeding past this road, but it didn't seem to end. Suddenly, I heard movement on the outside of my cab. The woman was now making her way to the front of my car. Her fingernails loudly scratched the roof of my car. Then suddenly her hand made its way to my side of the car, scratching and clawing at the mirror. Her shrill screams boring themselves to my ears, my eardrums almost shattering with every loud scream and growl. This felt like it went on forever, and then silence. After a long moment of quietness, I looked around. We were past Bolete Drive. I looked behind me and saw the terrified face of my passenger. Shaken up, I stopped the car. I had to breathe. I didn't know where the woman went or where she even came from. I could hear my passenger sob, a reaction to the horrifying ordeal we just went through. Understandably, both of us were breathing very heavily. My passenger looked at me with a face of confusion and horror. I checked around my cab, and there were very obvious scratches and dents all over it. I then went back inside and dropped the passenger off on their destination. Needless to say, from that day on, I avoided Bolete Drive completely. Even if the passenger insisted and would even offer extra pay, I declined. I don't know why the crooked woman attacked us that night, or why she is there, but I don't really plan on finding out anytime soon. Seventh story. I took a job as night shift cab driver. My passengers aren't humans. My name is Felix. I am a 22-year-old man who earns living off of small-time jobs. Made some bad decision during my teenage years and dropped out of high school at the age of 18. I was young, wild, and reckless. I didn't care about anyone's opinion and was privileged enough to be born in a decent household. My father earned a lot of money, so I never got a job. But I came to my senses after my dad passed away in an accident. I was 18 at the time. The burden to provide for the family now fell on my shoulders. I had to put food on the table for myself, my mother, and my 7-year-old sister from then on. I did a lot of work just to get a sustainable income. I mowed lawns, babysat for my neighbors, walked other people's dogs just to get my hands on a few dollars. At 20 years of age, I was not only doing the work I did when I was 18, but also got a nighttime job as a security guard at a mall. I was working really hard every day just to survive and was sleep deprived most of the time. And so after working like this for 2 years, I became irritable and short-tempered. I got fired from my job for misbehaving with the owner's son. Until that point of time, I did not know saving a girl from 2 drunk men touching and catcalling her was misbehaving, but okay. I started looking for a nighttime job on Craigslist and came across an ad. It was a job offer by a cab company. It read, "Position open as a night shift cab driver at our cabs. Work 6 hours a day, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., 6 days a week. Earn $150 a day. For further queries, call. Phone number omitted." I was excited on seeing such a great offer. I calculated the monthly income, which came out to total around $3,600 a month. With this amount of money, I could stop mowing lawns and taking care of babies, all while providing for my family, and even buying them gifts every once in a while. Not to mention the fact that because I would not be working day shifts if I got this job, I could catch up on my sleep. I called up the number given on the ad. A smooth, high-pitched male voice answered the call. He introduced himself as Dave. I inquired about the job, and after a quick interview over the phone, I got hired. The only thing that struck me as odd were some of the questions he asked. Majority of them were pretty normal. Are you nocturnal or have difficulty staying up at night? What's your age? But he also asked some rather odd questions. Are you an imaginative man? Can you follow a strict list of rules to the T if asked to? Can you keep calm under hazardous conditions and drive safe, even when you're speeding? The questions raised some red flags, but I was too blinded by the high amount of pay they were offering. He told me I could start as soon as today. I looked at the clock hanging from the wall. It was 10:12 p.m. I told him I would be there at 12 a.m. sharp. My mother was ecstatic when I gave her the news. She was more happy with the fact that I would spend more time with her and catch up on some sleep that she was with the pay. I thought of buying here something nice as soon as I completed my first month of work and collected $3,600. I reached the decided location at 11:58 p.m. It was just a kilometer away from my house, so I didn't bother bringing my car, as Dave said the company will be providing the cabs. At 12 a.m. sharp, a Prius pulled up and parked in front of me. A man wearing all black got out of the car and walked over to me. He greeted me with a warm smile and gave me the keys to the car I was supposed to be driving. It was the Prius. He congratulated me on getting the job. He set up the RCab app on my mobile phone and just before leaving, handed me a piece of paper and $150, then said, "Read this paper as soon as you can. It is a list of rules for you to follow." With this, he turned around and started walking into the night. After I saw his turn the corner, I got into the car, closed the doors, and smoothed out the folded piece of paper and started reading. It read, "Hey Felix, this is Dave. Now, there is something you should understand. Only you can read the text on this piece of paper, so there is no point in going to the cops or suing us because frankly, no one would believe you. Keep that in mind. And also, majority of the people you will pick up and drop will not be human. Rule 1. If you get a pickup request from a number with only 6 digits, call them up and politely decline. Do not go within 100 meters of their location for next 2 hours. Always apologize and make up a reason why you cannot come. The creature doesn't take rude remarks well. Rule 2. Always seat the passengers in the back seat and check their mirror reflection. If they have a reflection, drop them off to their location and do not ask for money. They will pay as they wish. If they do not have a reflection, take the pistol in the glove compartment and shoot yourself. It will be a marginally painless death compared to what they will do to you. Rule 3. Do not eat anything non-vegetarian in the cab. The smell of meat might capture some creature's unwanted attention, and believe me when I say, you do not want their attention. Rule 4. If you get a call from a person you know, do not answer the call. It is not them. If you do respond to them, you will hear a deafening screech which has been responsible for bursting eardrums in the past. Rule 5. Do not try to abandon the car on the road, where you will die the most brutal way your brain can imagine. Yes, they can read minds. Rule 6. You cannot give this job us without working here for at least 2 weeks. For the reasons I cannot specify because of the company's policy. Rule 7. If you get dark figures running along the car, speed up and try to ignore them. Do not stop or slow down. If you maintain a speed of 80 plus kmph, they will not be able to catch you. The other option is driving on a busy road. They will perform mock charges and give you illusions that they're gaining on you. But if you're driving fast, just keep driving fast for 3 to 4 more minutes, and they will be gone. Rule 8. If you smell rotten meat in the back seat, do not look behind you. Instead, take the pistol from the glove compartment, close your eyes, turn around, and fire on all the 3 back seats. It will be gone. It can't hurt you if you cannot see it. Rule 9. If your engine dies down, do not step out of the car. It is a bait to get you out. Wait for 20 to 30 minutes, and the car should start right back up. Rule 10. Do not dial anyone. They will not pick up. Calling for help also annoys the creatures after you. Your most beloved person might die of natural causes just the next day if you try to reach out to people who will not be picking up because their phones won't even be ringing. Rule 11. At 6 a.m., bring this car to your house. Leave the key in and walk back inside your home. The car will disappear in an hour or so, and we'll be right back there the next night at 12 a.m. I chuckled at the stupid list. Scary prank on the new guy, huh? I whispered under my breath and started driving. After just 5 to 10 minutes, my mom started calling. Just before I could pick it up, I froze with fear. I could smell the scent of rotting meat. I slowly opened the glove compartment, took out the pistol, closed my eyes, then turned around and shot 6 rounds, 2 bullets at each seat. I heard a loud shriek. After about 5 seconds, I opened my eyes to see that the seats were empty, but one of the windows was open, and there was some blood on the left seat. I cleaned it up with a towel kept in the glove compartment and started driving. I got a request. It was a regular number. I started driving toward its location. The passenger was a girl. She got in the back seat, and I started driving. I slowly tilted the rear view mirror, hoping and praying that she had a reflection. Luckily, she did. We eventually reached her destination, which was on a farm on the outskirts of town. She tipped me $10, got out of the car, and climbed up one of the farm's walls with ease. I sat there in the car, shocked. Eventually, the bleating of goats and the sound of flesh tearing broke me out of my trance, and I started driving away. After half an hour of contemplating what I had just witnessed, I received another request. I checked its location. It was as if my heart stopped beating. When I saw the passenger's number, it only had 6 digits and was just 87 meters away from me. I started my car back up and started driving. It was gaining on me. I started panicking. It was only 50 meters away from me. I could now feel the ground, shaking footsteps and low-pitched growls. I sped up to nearly 100 kilometers per hour and noticed that I was successfully moving away from it. I was 92 meters away from it when I noticed them. The dark figures, they were running alongside my car. I almost swerved off the road and into a wall 2 times, but I kept my cool and tried my best to ignore them. The figures, which looked like shadows of a human just a minute ago, distorted into demonic shadows within seconds. Walls around me started to bleed. I somehow maintained a consistent speed of nearly 100 kilometers per hour without crashing, and after a short, intense change, everything was suddenly back to normal. I was beginning to think I had lost my mind. I wanted to call my mother, but with everything that had happened up till that point of time, I did not want to break a rule. Then I remembered I had to make a call to the passenger and apologize, and that's what I did. It sounded like a charismatic young over the phone, but I knew better. After this whole ordeal was over, it was just 4 a.m. The next 2 hours passed by pretty normally. I picked up 3 more passengers, but they seemed normal. I did exactly what Dave told me to do, parked the car outside my house, and went to sleep. I woke up at 9 a.m. and gave my mother the $150. She was really happy. I knew if I told her what had actually gone down, she would not believe me. So I'm sitting here typing this at 10 p.m. I do not want to go back to that car again, but I have no option and no one will believe me. If I die, here lies my story. If I make it through this night, I will be grateful to God. I just want to know, has anybody else gotten this job offer from RCabs? Thanks a lot for watching the video till the end. Subscribe to Horror in Detail for more videos. Drop your suggestions in comment section.